Guys. My name is Kira Williams, and I am here with We Apply. I'm here with Tyler. We're here a little early, but better early than late, right? So, Tyler and I came on today to talk to you about collegiate sports. This is called Collegiate Sports 101. And I invited Tyler. I found him on Instagram, and he is a collegiate soccer coach. I'm going to let him tell you a little bit more about himself. But he's a collegiate soccer coach, and he really wants to spread the word. So we are very thankful that Tyler has agreed to come on and just educate others. So I'm going to let Tyler take over and tell a little bit about himself.
Hi guys, I'm Tyler Motti. I'm currently the assistant men's soccer coach at Malloy College on Long Island, New York. I've actually been the coach here for the past 5 years. I've really enjoyed helping future, current, and past student athletes. I played at the Hofstra University in New York as well for 4 years. And I recently created an Instagram account to help students across the country with current problems they're facing as student athletes in the recruiting process or once out of college or university. And the account is named College Athlete Lives. If you want to check it out, or give us a follow.
Cool. So Tyler, you definitely have experience as a player and also as a coach. That's pretty cool that you're able to see both sides of the spectrum.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, as a coach, have you been responsible for any recruiting for your team?
Yeah, so I've been lucky enough to handle a lot of different facets of the recruiting process, from correspondence with high school athletes, the tours of campus, to watching film, to attending showcases. But there's really a lot involved in the recruiting process. And if it's your first time going through it as a parent, or you're the first sibling in a family, there's really a lot of things that you should know when you're going about everything. Now, coaches receive hundreds of emails a week from players, and top Division I programs probably thousands. So what's really going to separate your email from the bunch in the short amount of time that a college coach has to kind of go through their day-to-day process? I'll go through a couple things that regularly happen on a regular basis. Be sure to address the coach properly. I can't tell you how many times I've been called Coach Smith or Coach something else. Make sure you get the name right. Don't be sending out 20 different emails with the same college or the same coach's name. Be sure to spell the college correctly. Don't spell Malloy and put an A in it. And don't write that you'd love to play at Rutgers University and not Malloy if you're emailing us. And lastly, don't write like, yo, coach, you should come watch me play. And these are things that are funny, but we get this type of stuff on a regular basis, and it's a simple delete because we know that person sent that email to 20 different schools also. But on the flip side, when we do get an email that's very well thought out and personalized, talking about our season or the program, the last few years we're much more likely to respond and create that dialogue going forward. And in this day and age, really, unless you're on a top team in your state or in the country, that you're going to be at the best showcases or tournaments throughout the year where tons of coaches are going to be, I'd really suggest creating a highlight video and filming your games so you can create an easier way for coaches to watch you play rather than just telling them what you're playing, because they do get so many different emails throughout the year, and time is of the essence in a lot of circumstances.
So you mentioned a highlight video, mentioned, kind of sending an email, I guess, the student inquiring themselves about, the recruitment process. What, and I don't think that's on there, but this is kind of a follow-up question. What are the other steps like in the recruitment process for somebody that knows absolutely nothing about the recruitment process? What does that look like?
I mean, the initial contact is mostly huge because there's so many times when kids feel like they're just going to get recruited. But with the amount of emails that college coaches do get, it's really important to make sure you set yourself aside and you show the interest to that school and to that program one-on-one and really well thought out stuff just so that you can create that dialogue and move it forward, that you really have a good repertoire with the coach and you can have some options moving into your senior year. Because if you wait too long and all of a sudden it's the middle of your senior year, you don't have many options. And a lot of times scholarship has already been handed out to a lot of players. So these teams only have a certain amount of budget, so you want to make sure you're on it your junior year going into senior year and really have a couple different options. And then you're able to make a good choice for you and the family.
Gotcha. Okay, so it sounds like this process really turns up in, the heat turns up around junior year. That's when you should be really focused on doing these things that you talk about.
And don't be disappointed if you don't have a ton of interest going into your senior year, because there still are opportunities where in different sports and whether you're a male or a female, it kind of works a little bit differently. But for men's soccer, for example, a lot of times a lot of Division I programs will be finished up in the fall of your senior year recruiting-wise, but a lot of Division IIs and Division IIIs still have roster spots or some scholarship left because they're waiting to see what's going to trickle down from those schools, from those players that were borderline playing Division I or Division II or playing Division II or Division III. So don't get discouraged if you don't have a ton of interest early. Continue to plug along and continue to reach out to schools that you might be interested in.
Okay, so that's cool. That's definitely an important point to drive home, is that, like you said, the coaches will not always come to you, especially if you're not in those places where they are. You have to reach out to them, send inquiry emails, and show interest, genuine interest in, the recruitment process for that school. So let's talk a little bit about preparation. As you and I agree, this is something that doesn't get focused on enough. So as, if I'm a high school student that's interested in playing collegiate sports, whether it be soccer, whether it be basketball, football, whatever it is, and obviously it's a little different for each sport, but what are some general things I can do to be prepared, before I start the emailing and the showing interest? What does that look like, or what should students be doing?
Yeah, it's a great question, because often the natural response would be just to talk about the athletic side of things. Obviously, if you're going to play in college, you have to be playing regularly at a high level. That's just a given. But I think it's just as important to have your grades in order and to learn to manage your time well, because that's a huge part of what the day-to-day life is as a student athlete. There may be weeks when you're in college that you're on the road 2 to 3 days and you're missing classes, but you still got to get that work done. So time management and learning to get work done efficiently in the time you have is massive to learn before you get to school in the fall, and all of a sudden you're in the heat of things.
Absolutely. So I was doing a little research, and I saw that like the NCAA, this is something I didn't know before I did the research, and seeing as how there's a lot of people that don't do the research, there are like requirements for NCAA athletes, for them to be able to play. How, what can a student do to prepare for, the NCAA or another, it's not called a division, but another association like the NCAA to prepare for that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so basically whether you're playing Division I, Division II, or Division III, there's a thing called the NCAA Clearinghouse. It's the NCAA Eligibility Center. And you need to be cleared by them to play based off your grades before you even step foot in the field in a college. And we see instances like this all the time of kids just that we're recruiting that we find out a month into it that based on their high school grades or their SATs or ACT scores, they're not going to be eligible to play for the following fall. And if you're not eligible to play, there's something called a partial qualifier, which means that you could receive money, but you can't participate in games athletically. You could only practice. And then there's also a non-qualifier, which means that you can't participate in any practices and you can't receive any athletic money. And there's a sliding scale for that. So based on your SAT scores, the lower the SAT score, the higher your GPA needs to be. And you can just simply Google that and could find the sliding scale. But it's important to know where you stand GPA-wise, because then it shows you what you need to get on the ACT or SAT to be qualified to play in college.
Man, and that's amazing insight to have on the front end, because as we talked about, those students that say, hey, I want to play collegiate sports, they don't think about the ACT or the SAT factor into that. They just see sports and they, forget that you want to be a student athlete, not just an athlete.
Yeah, and often I feel like so many kids don't realize until it's their junior and senior year, and by that time, it's too hard to make it up. Because your GPA might be too low to get it to a point that you're going to be eligible. So now all of a sudden you're faced with having to go to a junior college or an NAIA school to start off with, instead of being able to take the best opportunity that you had coming out of high school.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So transitioning to, we've been talking about getting ready to play. Let's talk about playing and, what it's like as a player. What's the biggest adjustment that you see, from a high school student becoming a collegiate athlete? What have you seen?
I would go back to the whole time management thing. Most student athletes are going to be living away from home for the first time. And there's no one that's going to be coming to check up on you to make sure that you're doing your homework or going to bed at a certain time. And it's easy to stay up till 3 a.m. playing video games with your buddies or going to a party on a Wednesday night because it's college and most students don't have the added responsibility of being at a lift in the morning or playing 2 games in a week or preparing for film or the game plan for a certain game. So that first semester's tough, and there's a lot of students that just aren't ready to do well, not just on the field, but off it. And then speaking playing-wise, if you are playing at college, no matter what level it is, what division it is, you were probably one of the best players on your high school team, on your travel team, growing up. And it's a huge realization to think that now you're stepping on a team with a bunch of other players that were in similar situations, but now are sophomores, juniors, seniors, sometimes grad school kids, all older than you with more experience. And then all of a sudden you're not playing as much as you may have wanted to. So all these players were obviously great players in high school, so just don't get disappointed or upset if your coach isn't putting you in the starting line to start with, or you aren't playing every minute of every game. Don't get down or upset because it's not their fault. They're playing players that probably were in similar roles maybe a year or 2 earlier, but have fought and worked hard and improved. So just be ready when your opportunity comes. So you'll get it eventually, whether it's the fall of your freshman year or the spring of your sophomore. Just be ready and really be able to take advantage of it. Because it is a drastic difference, no matter what sport you're playing, taking that jump from the high school level to college level.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And transitioning into our next question, what kind of resources and of course this varies by campus, but in general, what kind of resources do student athletes have to support them, through that transition, to help them with time management, just for parents, that might be apprehensive about sending their child off because they're worried about how they'll do?
Yeah, so every school is different. Whether you're playing a big Division I school, or a smaller Division II or Division III school, there's going to be resources to help you, but they're all on different scales. Playing in a smaller school, your coach may be more on top of you because they're getting notifications every time you miss class or you don't do homework, whereas at a bigger school, you're kind of just a number in the bunch. So you need to obviously take that into consideration when you're choosing schools if that's something that's really important to you. But at most schools, there's study hall that incoming student athletes have to partake in, or those that are struggling classes, you might get put back into study hall just to make sure you're getting your work done, and you have a scheduled time of the day to do so you're managing your time. Additionally, most programs will have student athlete advisors that players will meet with on a regular basis. They'll go over class or just talk about their school or athletic life just to help them out. And then finally, I would say most alumni are great help post-graduation. Whether it's setting up an interview or giving advice on what a student athlete's best options are or to crack into a particular field. And when you guys are having those alumni days or alumni events or alumni games, when you are in college, be sure to reach out and create a lasting friendship or a relationship with those alumni, because they're a huge asset to lean on when you are looking for a job when you graduate.
Mm-hmm. Man, that's definitely, those are some amazing tips. And, that again transitions us into my very next question, which is how does playing sports prepare that student for life after sports? Because we understand that this many, athletes go pro. And of course, when you're talking to high school students, they're all, I'm going to go pro and that's going to be my career. But the reality is that so many of them don't. So, how do they get prepared for life after?
Yeah, obviously being a student athlete is an awesome experience. But if you're going to school just to play sports in most cases, you're probably making a mistake, I would say. Because in every sport, really, other than men's basketball, you're not going to be making millions of dollars after playing one season in college. And even those cases are extremely rare. So what happens after that first semester, if you've only passed 6 credits, or after that first year, if you've only passed 12 credits, all of a sudden you're leaving yourself an LA for that next semester, the next year, or you have to transfer schools to go to a junior college for a semester to get your grades back up to be eligible. And many times in a lot of schools, if you drop below a certain GPA or credit requirements, you may lose your athletic or academic scholarships that you might be on, and you'll be even in a tougher situation where you might not be able to afford it financially. So you have to make sure you're getting your work done and doing well in all those classes to make sure you give yourself the best opportunity to graduate, because like you said, there's only so many that become professional athletes and can make a living doing that.
Absolutely. So you've definitely talked about some key things today, from the recruiting process to being able to manage while you're in college and then transitioning to life after sports. Are there any tips that you would give, that we haven't talked about, that will be helpful to high school students and their parents, that are seeking to play collegiate sports?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different roads I can go down here. I would say one large thing is talking about just scholarships in general. I think a lot of parents and high school athletes think that if they're good in a sport, they're automatically going to be able to get a scholarship in college, whether it's a partial or a full scholarship. But what they don't realize, a lot of parents don't realize, and a lot of high school students don't realize, that different sports, and depending on if it's male or female, the sport, the scholarship budget maximum is different in each sport. So really the only sports that you're going to be getting a full ride, let's say, on complete athletic money on a regular basis, if you are good enough, is football or basketball.
Whoa.
Because I can drive a little deeper into it soccer-wise. So a regular soccer team, college soccer team, has somewhere between probably 24 and 30 players on the roster. And the maximum scholarship amount that any team in Division I has is 9.9. That's North Carolina, that's Duke, that's Indiana, that's Stanford. The maximum they can have is 9.9. So if you break that down, that's about a third of a scholarship a player.
Wow.
So how do players afford to go to school or say they have a full ride? Because it's based on so many different other things. So coaches are going to try to put together a package for you, for your family, based on three things. One is financial aid. Obviously, everybody doesn't qualify for it, but it's basically government money that's given to you based on your household income. The second thing is academics. They're going to try to get you as much academic money as possible, but obviously you have to have the grades, you have to have the SAT scores to qualify for that aid. And then finally, they're going to come in with athletic money. And that's pretty much how every single coach across the country, no matter what sport it is going to go. They're going to try to find you the most amount of money possible in those other two things first, and then come in and see if they can give you that money athletically. If all three of those things don't work out, you really need to be one of their top players coming in to really garner a good amount of money and probably afford it, depending on obviously your budget and everything. But I think it's something that a lot of people don't realize. In whatever sport you do play, you should be looking into what the maximum budget is, scholarship budget is for your sport and the division. Because then soccer Division I is 9.9, and then Division II is 9.0. So it's a little bit less, but a lot of schools, Malloy included, have less than that 9.0. So a lot of times it's even less than that.
Wow. That's an amazing tip. Wow. That's an amazing tip for people, like, because something that I tell people is that, a lot of people think all athletic scholarships are full rides, just like you said. Some think that they're, half or partial. And then there's obviously, like you said, people that get none. So, it's interesting to know about the budget in that, hey, some players, in the instance that you use, have 1/3 of their tuition covered. That really allows somebody to let it hit home so they can understand what kind of money they need, and that it's a package deal, not just coming from one source.
And if you do have good academics, all of a sudden it might give you the opportunity to play at a higher level than if you were the same player that didn't have that academic money. Because your budget, your family budget might be a little bit less, but all of a sudden you're getting another $10,000 or $15,000 sprinkled in academically. Then that 10 or 15 that they were giving you athletically looks a lot better as a $20,000 or $30,000 package than a $10,000 or $15,000 package.
Man. Okay. That's an amazing tip. Anything else that you can think of?
Let me think. I would really advise all student athletes, high school student athletes, to create an initial list of probably 10 to 20 programs in varying playing levels initially, with the degree field or the major that you want to take, and reach out to those schools and see what sort of feedback you're getting. Now, if you're not really getting any Division I feedback, it might be more time to focus on maybe a Division II or a Division III schools. If you are starting to get a bunch of interest from some higher programs, then maybe you're going after more of those type of areas. But so many times, everybody just wants to email Division I programs, and then they get no interest back, and then they're left with nothing when they could have really found a good fit, whether it's in a Division II, a Division III, a JUCO, an NAIA, because there is a school out there for everybody. But you just have to make sure you get out there and do your research beforehand, and then really target the schools that are really interested and have your degree, because that's obviously important as well. So you shouldn't just be going after a school just because you want to play soccer or football or basketball, but you should be going after a school that really has your degree and has a good program for you to go post-graduation.
Definitely. So everything else applies, as far as the college search and obtaining scholarships and money for college, all that other stuff applies. You know, being aspiring to be a collegiate athlete is one where it kind of adds a little bit more to your plate. So you have to do your regular college stuff, but you also have to pursue, you know, the recruitment process from different colleges. Sounds like. Absolutely. A lot of work, a lot of work. Well, man, you have definitely dropped some knowledge, things that I'm thankful that I got to know so that I can educate others. Can you please tell everybody about your Instagram page again so they can follow you?
Yeah, so the Instagram account name is called College Athlete Lives, and just gives a little insight and some tips throughout the year based on whether it's the recruiting process or life as a college athlete in general. So give us a follow, and if you have any input or questions, you can definitely reach out to me via email on there or direct message, and I'll try to get back to you.
Cool, cool. So I'm looking to see if there are any questions. I don't see any. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them on here and I will message Tyler offline if you genuinely have a question that you were wondering based off what we talked about. Other than that, you can definitely follow his Instagram page. Please do. He gave us some amazing information. And again, we are very thankful that you took the time out to come on here and to talk to us and to educate.
Absolutely. And thank you. You guys are doing a great job as well.
Thank you. All right. Well, Facebook, we will see you later. Have a great day.